Today, we become legends.
So the Smite 2 dev talk just finished up at Worlds, and we got a bunch of new information on Smite 2, how some of the systems are going to work, when we're going to get access to the game in terms of alpha and beta, full release, that kind of stuff. And so I thought I would just go over a few of the key points that they talked about on the dev note, so you don't have to watch the entire 1 hour thing if you don't want to. I'm super interested in this stuff. I'll watch the whole thing, and I'll bring you guys the key points that you need to know. So first up, they talked a little bit about the development history of the game and how it came to be. And a real key point they tried to hammer home was that they really just want to make Smite but better. They want to make like an evolved version of Smite. They don't want to reinvent the formula. They don't want to completely change the game. They just want to remake Smite from the ground up, make it better, but like a similar kind of experience. Something that really surprised me is that they started with just a team of 5 people working for 4 weeks building Smite in UE5. At this point, they didn't really intend for it to be a full-fledged game that they were going to release or anything like that. They just started with a small team and they wanted to bring Smite into UE5 to see what it could do and some of the improvements they could make, what the graphical quality looked like, all that kind of stuff. And they created a working demo that they showed a little bit of gameplay from. It's extremely janky. I'll try and put up some of the gameplay in the background. It looks really janky and terrible, but keep in mind that this was made by 5 people in 4 weeks, completely from scratch, which is like really impressive, honestly. And then once they pitched that to the higher ups at Hi-Rez, they said, you know what, this is really awesome. The fact that you've been able to develop this in such a small amount of time with such a small team that they put more people on it. And the game has been worked on for 11 months, they said. So basically the development of the game started at the start of year 10 Smite. That's all the dev time they've had on it. And what they've come up with in that time is honestly quite incredible. Everything was built entirely from scratch for Smite 2. No Smite 1 code was used. And to be able to come up with this in 11 months and have like a playable demo that they had at SWC and all that kind of stuff is really impressive. And so I'm very excited for the future of the game development in terms of, you know, the next 6 months, the next year, that kind of stuff. They really made the point as well that UE5 is such a massive upgrade and it allows them to make changes really quickly, so they can do a lot of like prototyping, like random fun stuff, see if it works, and if it doesn't, they've only wasted like 30 minutes rather than wasting an entire half day. Everything is more streamlined, changing things is much easier without breaking other things. There's a lot less spaghetti code because it's been built from the ground up with 10 years of experience, rather than building on top of like some Smite programming that was done in 2011 by a very small team in Unreal Engine 3. Like everything is just going to feel much more streamlined and easier to work with on the actual dev side of things. So we should see a lot more interesting changes and stuff because they'll have more iterations of it, more prototypes available in the same amount of time. Moving on to a little bit of ranked stuff, they are trying to incorporate a way to include variants based on your main and non-main roles. They didn't really give a ton of information about this, but on the panel they basically talked about how like they're very aware that if you're like a jungle solo main, like I am, if I'm queuing jungle or solo, I'm going to perform at like a master's level. But then if you put me in the ADC role, I am probably performing at like a high plat, maybe low diamond at best level. So they're trying to incorporate some of that into like matchmaking. They had a whole like segment on how they want to improve matchmaking and improve the rank system. And that was one of the key points they talked about. They want to include some way to account for that variance. Maybe not necessarily like a specific skill rating for each role, but just incorporating that. Like if you get put in your worst role compared to your best role, being put in the same match for those 2 roles is not necessarily gonna give you a really good indicator of where your performance is at. They also mentioned an interesting statistic which I fully believe, and that is that 95% of Smite players have never played even one ranked game. And so they want to improve the experience to encourage more people to try ranked, because obviously the best way to get better matchmaking for ranked is to get more people to actually play the mode. Only 5% of Smite players have ever even played one ranked game, never mind actually consistently grinding it out. It's probably like 1% that are actually consistently grinding it. And so having more people try out ranked, make the experience feel better, maybe add some rewards and stuff like that, will hopefully bring more people into ranked and make the matchmaking better overall. Rank will now start at the very bottom and grind up rather than starting in the middle like you do in Smite 1. So obviously in Smite 1 you start at 1500 MMR, which is gold 3, and that leads to a lot of issues where like people that are actually gold 3 and have like 300 games grinded, and gold 3 is where they've ended up, they constantly get like new players thrown in that have never played a ranked game before in their life because they start at 1500. And so essentially they're gonna make it so that you start at the very bottom and you have to grind your way all the way up now. MMR and rank is also going to be combined into one skill rating now, which will be uncapped, and there's going to be new ranked tiers as well. They haven't mentioned a ton of specifics on this stuff, but they gave like general overviews. Masteries and stars from Smite 1 can be shown on a badge in Smite 2 alongside your new mastery level. There'll also be badges for a ton of other stuff, like being a closed beta player, all the tier 5 skins you owned in Smite, all that kind of stuff. They've said they have more than 50 things tracked at the moment that you're going to get badges for in Smite 2 based on how you performed, or like the things that you owned in Smite 1, which I think is really cool. Progression is a very important aspect of the game for me and for I know a lot of players, and so being able to track that stuff, bring it over to Smite 2, show off that you had 85 stars on Loki in Smite 1, I think it's really important to have that stuff. They had a small segment as well on the Legacy Gems system and Divine Legacy and all this kind of stuff, because I know there has been a lot of backlash about that, and they know that as well, so I won't be surprised if they added this segment in last minute to the dev insight. They had a segment where they said most things will be available 50% off using Legacy Gems, and people took that as like, oh, you know, most things will be available, all the cool stuff won't be. They did say that they want to make almost everything use Legacy Gems. Crossovers was a specific thing they mentioned that probably won't be able to use Legacy Gems, and that is simply because the companies behind the IPs that they do crossovers with have a profit share on all of the skins that are sold, and it will cut into the profits for those companies and make the deals less profitable for the partners and stuff like that, so they didn't want to be able to use Legacy Gems for that reason. Although they did say if the partners were open to it, the companies that they partner with for these crossovers, if they were open to it, they would allow it, but most likely probably not going to be able to use them for crossovers. They also said they do intend to port over a limited selection of the fan favorite Smite 1 skins, which will be buyable 100% with Legacy Gems. So essentially you will be able to, quote, transfer that skin. I know that word has become like taboo at this point within Smite, but yeah, you will be able to, quote, transfer them over because you'll be able to buy them 100% with your Legacy Gems on all of these Smite 1 skins that they want to port over. But they did kind of specify it will be a very limited selection of fan favorite ones, like the most used skins most likely. And so don't expect any skin from Smite 1 to transfer over, but be pleasantly surprised if some of them do, is like the messaging that I got from it. It also doesn't seem like tier 5s will be ported immediately, which is a bit of a shame, but perhaps in the future maybe. They said it takes 2 person months to make one of them, which seems very doable to me to have at some point in the future of Smite 2. You know, maybe not immediately in like the launch of alpha or beta, or maybe not even at the full release, but 2 person months seems completely doable for each tier 5. Just put like a 5-person team on it, get it done in a couple of weeks. There's not that many tier 5s. I feel like they could easily port all of them over to UE5. They would look so incredible, and then obviously you can give them to the people that had them in Smite 1 for free, or let them use their Legacy Gems to 100% buy them. And now a little bit more on the future of the game and when we're going to get access to it and all that. They said that every week from now on, basically, until like the full launch of the game, they're going to have like a dev insight video or a blog or something like that diving into certain aspects of the game. I'm not sure how interesting these will be. If they end up all being really interesting, I will cover all of them. If they end up only a few of them being really interesting, I'll cover only the ones that I think are interesting and put those up on the channel. So if you do want to keep up to date with Smite 2 and these blogs and a little condensed breakdown of them and stuff like that, I will be putting out videos on those ones that I think are interesting, so definitely subscribe for that. They did say that Alpha, which is going to be coming sort of towards the end of spring, will only be 1 weekend a month to collect feedback. It's not going to be like a full beta of the game where you get full access. It is going to be 1 weekend a month. They're going to collect feedback from that as they go like towards the beta. And they said they have 25 to 30 gods targeted for closed beta, which will be fully available 24/7 like you would kind of expect from a beta, rather than the alpha, which is only going to be like 1 weekend a month. And they're targeting mid to late 2024 for the closed beta, so towards the end of this year, or like the final 2 quarters of this year, where hopefully we'll start to get access to the closed beta for Smite. I've obviously applied for the alpha. Maybe I can swing my dick around with my community and maybe get access to the alpha like guaranteed and bring you guys some gameplay and stuff like that. We'll see. As soon as I get access to the game and can post gameplay and stuff like that, I will be doing that, so definitely pay attention to my channel. I'm going to try and get some of that stuff out as soon as I possibly can. And finally, they said 50 plus gods are going to be targeted for the full free-to-play launch later this year. But yeah, that's all we have from the dev insight, just a little breakdown of the key points that they discussed. There was more talked about, but this is most of the important stuff that you need to know about or might be interested in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I will catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.